Yes.
Hi everyone, this is Didi.
And I am Fred. And this is our 36-foot floating home sunshine.
Join us as we go sailing.
Hello, everyone. Fred here. Uh, India didn't write even a video. So I made this little slideshow presentation about our experiences in the harbor. I'm starting off with a screenshot of sea maps. It shows where we first approached the entrance channel to go into the harbor, and that's where I called the port control. And they came back and said, "You have not got permission to enter the port." So I badgered them a little bit. They said, "Well, go 10 miles south of the harbor entrance and anchor." Well, I went 7 miles south and spent hours with the motor turning over very slowly, going around in big circles, thinking that they were going to respond to my emergency request to enter the harbor. As the afternoon progressed, the wind, which had been fairly light earlier in the day, started to increase. This seems to be very common in that area. So when it was still about 2 hours from sundown and no response from anyone, I told Didi, "Well, I guess we're going to have to anchor for the night." And it was probably half a kilometer off the beach in 10 meters of water. So we dropped the hook and proceeded to spend an abysmal night anchored in an open roadstead on a lee shore with building wind, sometimes as much as 20 knots, and the seas approaching 2 meters in height. And of course, the boat's shearing around. Sometimes it's rolling, sometimes it's pitching. Totally miserable. On the sea maps, you can also see the place that we anchored inside the harbor. In this picture, you can see two Indian Coast Guard vessels. The one in the right is the one that came out later in the afternoon to escort us into the harbor. Anyway, the next morning, it was fairly calm again. This breeze from the night, the wind from the night died off. And once again, I contacted port control. What's the situation? What's going on? And he wanted a couple of phone numbers to give to an agent who was supposed to contact people in the U.S. Later on, they told me that they called those numbers and the people on the other end offered no help. Well, that's a flat out lie, because I have since checked with those two people. They received no call from an agent or anyone else in India. And I'm sure they would have done everything they could possibly do to assist me and Didi and the boat. Anyway, I kept asking them about getting in, and they finally said, "Contact the Indian Coast Guard," which I did. And sometime later, this launch, a small open launch with a number of crew on it, came out to the boat. And the guy commanding the launch climbed up on the boat on Sunshine, and he had his ever-ready phone camera out, took a bunch of pictures of documents, asked me a whole bunch of questions, and left with his crew, and he said, "We'll be back in a little while." Well, sure enough, they came back. Very pleasant guys. Brought me about 20 liters of diesel and a bunch of food stuff. And said later on, We'll see if we can't get you into the harbor. So as the day progressed, we sat there and enjoyed some of this fresh food that they brought out to us. And sure enough, that Coast Guard cutter came out, contacted us, and said, uh, we're going to escort you into the harbor. Of course, they escorted us from behind, not in front. I thought that was a little strange. And of course, they waited till late in the afternoon when the wind did build up again, probably blowing 15 knots. And I got to retrieve 150 feet, near 45 meters of chain with the boat pitching and bouncing around. Finally, get the anchor up, and we proceed to the harbor entrance. Well, by now it's dark, and there's a ebb tide. So we're fighting the tidal current to get in, and they escort us from behind, guide us into the harbor to the place that shows on the sea maps where we drop the hook in about 2 meters of water. Almost immediately, two guys are brought out to the boat. One is quarantined, does a health check, and the other, I guess, was customs. Anyway, they left for the night. We finally were able to get a decent night's sleep because the boat wasn't pitching and rolling all over the place. Early the next morning, someone from immigration, two guys actually, showed up and gave us two documents that we had to sign. And the documents stated basically, under no circumstances whatever were we allowed to go ashore. So that was how things started in the beginning and our experiences in Cochin. The next couple of photos are, let's see, the first one is a hotel that's really quite close by. And we can almost pick up their Wi-Fi signal, but without an Indian SIM card, we can't access it. And the second picture is some other government building. Yes, that's right. We have no Indian SIM card. We have no way to contact anyone. We can't get on the internet. We can't get an Indian SIM card without an Indian visa. And of course, this is the major problem. Since this was an unplanned stop, I didn't get visas for India. We had no plans ever to go to India. That's why this was an emergency stop. I continued to contact Port Control, asking them about. They offered to get us this agent. Well, where is the agent? Why hasn't he shown up? They can't contact us because we've got no phone service. We can't respond to them or their emails because we have no internet. So come on, guys, get an agent, get him out here. Something. We got to get this ball rolling. Nothing happened. Later on, the next day, I think it was, the parade starts. Indian government officials of different stripes show up. All at once, there were 6 of them that climbed on the boat, got into the cockpit, with one guy seemingly in charge, once again, asking all kinds of questions, wanted to take pictures of all kinds of documents. He didn't want the copies that I had made, like ship's papers and crew lists and passports and all that stuff. And the guy in the uniform is in the Indian Coast Guard. I don't know, like a lieutenant commander or something, I think, if the stripes are similar to the U.S. Anyway, he was interested to see our course line and such that I had on the laptop down below. And he took a bunch of pictures of the pages from my logbook showing the course from when we decided to go to Cochin, when we were way down south and coming all the way up. Now, one thing I found rather humorous was that all these different guys that are coming out to the boat, at least half of them are hitting on Dee Dee. They want her phone number, they want her Facebook page. Uh, the agent that finally showed up told her that he already had a visa to the Philippines, and when he went there to the Philippines, he would look her up because he was under the mistaken impression that we were heading to the Philippines. And she said, "Oh no, we're heading west. We're not going to the Philippines." So, two of the guys, one of the two-man crews on the watchdog boat, were actually quite pleasant and friendly. One guy was taller than the other guy was a little shorter, and they were a bit sympathetic. On Dee Dee's birthday, I wanted to take her out to a nice restaurant for a meal. Of course, we couldn't go ashore anywhere, but these guys went and with their own money went to an eatery close by and got us a couple of nice hot meals and a bottle of Pepsi and brought it out to us and just gave it to us. I thought that was great. And they did the same thing the next morning, I think, when they came on watch again. Anyway, after all these officials took off, we sat there for days with me calling port control 2 or 3 times a day. Where's the agent? What's going on? Any progress? Nothing happens. Finally, after 6 days, both Dee Dee and I have given up. She's crying every day because she can't contact her family. We can't get on the internet. Nobody is responding to anything that we're trying to get done. No agents, nothing. We sit there day after day after day, nothing happening. Finally, I decided, okay, let's just leave this place. Maybe we can make it to Ulagan. It's a couple of 250 miles southwest, more or less. It's the northern end of the Maldives. Had originally planned to go there. So I call Port Control and say, hey, we're leaving. Oh, no, you can't. Wait. You have to check out and all this other stuff. So that's strange. I didn't check in, and now it seemed like you ignored us. You want us to leave your precious harbor. So we're leaving. Oh, no, you can't do that. You have to wait. So finally, they contact this customs agent. Very pleasant guy. He comes out. And after 6 days of complete inactivity on the part of the Indian government, this guy says, don't worry. Dee Dee's crying. He says, don't cry. I'll get an agent out here and we'll get all this taken care of. And he was true to his word. A couple hours later, an agent on a local boat came out. We talked a bit. I gave him a very generalized shopping list. Needed food, water, and diesel fuel. And he said, okay. Off he went. He got all that stuff, came back again, and we're loading it on the boat. Now you can imagine, I said, oh, I wanted 200 liters of water. Only brought 200 1 liter bottles of water, 250 liters of diesel, which was enough to fill all our tanks, and a bunch of food and some other items that we requested. Really hard not being able to go in the store and pick out what we wanted, but it was better than starvation. And then we were informed by the customs guy that came out later, or by port control, that we had to leave no later than midnight the same day. Well, I'm scrambling around trying to get this fuel out of jugs and get it into tanks and get all the food sorted out. Uh, and then, of course, since I can't go to shore, how do I arrange payment for all this stuff? Well, that was another fiasco, but it did get done eventually, not by me going ashore. I wasn't happy with the way I had to do it, but I had to do it. And we were able to, I was able to contact an ISP in Sri Lanka that allowed data roaming. And I had to put money in the account and I had to access my bank to make sure that the funds were transferred to that service in Sri Lanka, which allowed me to activate data roaming through the Indian network. That's how I was able to contact my bank. We were able to briefly contact family and such, let them know what was going on and that we were leaving very soon again to the Seychelles. And that's what we did.